Get going. All right, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar called Is It Football Season Yet? My name is Brad Seigan. I'm the director of marketing for Presto Sports. We're very happy you're joining us today to finally just show off our new product, Football 2.0. Today with me, we've got one of our product engineer or our software engineers, Zach Pace. Zach has been one of the people that has been showing this off at conventions and everything, knows this product very well. So Zach is going to walk us through a lot of the features today, talk a lot about this product. And what you're going to see, even if you don't have football, is the direction we're heading with PrestoStats. Don't have exact dates on when a lot of these current products are going to be updated into the new versions, but you can at least see where we're heading with everything. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Zach, and Zach, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
All right. If you have any questions during this time, just you can use the Q&A or chat feature down at the bottom of our webinar here. Uh,
It said
so,
the chat feature is disabled.
Yes. So please use the Q&A feature on that. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate that.
all right. So why did we create an upgraded version of Football Stats? Well, first, we wanted to ensure our products were going to be optimized for your mobile experiences moving forward. One of the really cool things about this one, and we'll touch a little bit more on it later, is this will work on an iPad or a phone. So if you happen to just need to make an update and you're down at the field and you just have your phone with you, you can update a play, change a jersey number down at the field on your phone. Another big one is we wanted to make it easier to adjust the software to account for the needs. I mean, as new rules are implemented, things are changed, yard lines are moved back, touchback lines are moved. We wanted to make it easier for us to be able to get those updates out to you quicker. And that goes into our next one as well, just ease of use. We wanted to make it so that you all can use the stats platform easier. Wanted to solve some of the issues that have existed across several of the other stats entry platforms in the past. Just kind of get rid of some of the clunkiness, move it forward a little bit. And that leads us into our last point of just investing in the future of stats. Stats data is one of your more important data points, and we want to allow you to easily grab that data and use it in a more modern, friendly format. So what's different in our 2.0 platform is we've improved the play editing experience. As I mentioned earlier, it handles much better. We removed some of the kind of pain points that we had found that we just couldn't remove in our old platform. But since we were able to rebuild it from the ground up, we were able to have those ideas in mind for how to handle those situations instead of having to work around. So a lot less workarounds, a lot more just integrated flow. And another big one is we will now support 3-character roster numbers. I know that's been a very requested one. If you have two 88s, for example, you'll now be able to have an 88O and an 88D to easily differentiate those two players for who's your offensive and who's your defensive player. And then we also added a field direction view so that you can have that additional checkpoint. Just makes it a little easier to keep up with where we're at on the field, make sure you're getting everything right. Just another way to help prevent errors, essentially. And as I said earlier, we have a brand new user interface that it flows better. You'll see it here in a second. It looks nicer. It looks like a platform you'd be proud of to use in the modern era. And as I touched on earlier, it is mobile optimized. Again, to me, that's one of the bigger features here is it does work with that iPad. And I know if you've seen us at conventions, we've had it up on the iPad showing that off a little bit of you can stat on an iPad if you would like to. So if you're in a bind and your computer goes down and you have a game that day and you have an old iPad laying around, you can stat it on the iPad. Now, I would probably not recommend statting a full game on like your phone. That might get a little clunky, but it will work on an iPad fairly well. Like I've statted some full games here in testing, and the buttons and all are big enough that I didn't really have any issues of hitting the wrong player. when I was using the iPad version. So what functionality is still there? And the big one is the keystrokes that you know and love are not going away. So you're still sitting there. You can still hit P for pass, R for rush. The keystrokes are not going away. We're keeping those. I know those are a big point of which you all use. And then the game flow is kind of the same. So in the sense of the flow itself is the same, but we've just kind of ironed out a few small spots that were causing hiccups before. And then you'll still have access to your in-game reports. And then the big one here, legacy stats will still be available for this season. So if you would prefer, you can still use that old legacy platform if you don't want to use the 2.0. So a couple of important notes though. Once you have started statting a game, you cannot switch back and forth between legacy and 2.0 during a game. So if you start this game in 2.0, you cannot go back to legacy. And the reason for that is just how we're saving the data. It's saving in a more modern format, and we're just collecting a few different stats essentially from the new platform, the 2.0 platform. So unfortunately, they're not backwards compatible in that way of you can't go back and forth during the game. And we do allow adding notes or comments, whatever you want to call them, on each drive. And we're looking here soon at adding that added functionality for every play. That's kind of a limitation of the pack files a little bit, so we still got to work through that. And then you'll be able to add a note for every play. And then I do just want to keep hammering the point home of it's optimized for both mobile and desktop. So those iPads, those phones, whatever you have, they will work. Okay, so what is the workflow for doing a game in Football 2.0? Essentially, it's pretty similar to what you're used to today. You're going to start by going into the CMS system, and you're just going to enter in your roster as you would today. So, for example, here we have a player who we named 210. So you see there, it carries over into our Stats 2.0 platform with both the O and the D. So now we can easily differentiate those two players, and it just makes it a lot easier to figure out who's who. No more trying to guess which player is which. And then we'll start the game up, and we'll get all of our options. And these are more, if you're statting a game, maybe you're doing a JV game today, and we're only going to play 10-minute quarters. This will allow you to easily change those so that, you can just quickly change it and the clock will work correctly. Or, maybe we're agreeing that we're only going to have 2 timeouts as half. You can support that as well. We wanted to put the power in your hands to customize whatever you would like here. So, whatever you see on the screen, you can change as far as, timeouts, downs. If you wanted to stat a field at 80 yards, you could do that as well. So when you start the game up, you're just going to see a little pop-up. And we'll go through it more here in a minute. And it's just going to ask who won the coin toss, who's receiving this kickoff, and then it's going to let you make sure that your field layout's correct so that you're looking at it correct from your point of view, and it doesn't get backwards for you essentially. And then once we've got all of our game setup going, we're just going to go through here and select who all is eligible to participate in this game. So that's pretty similar to all our other stats and how it was before. You don't have to select starters for football, but you do need to go in here and select participants. And this is just going to show this participant flag is going to determine who all shows when you go to select a play. So if you don't mark them as eligible, they're not going to show to make a tackle or catch a pass. And that's so if you got 18, 20 guys who are hurt or they're red shirted, you don't have to dig through those guys to look for the correct player. And then lastly, then we just pop in and start adding plays. And see here, it's pretty similar to the look as far as somewhat similar to the look of Legacy of you have your kind of box icons, as I like to call them, and the keys still work. So you see rush, for example, the R is underlined, so R would take you to the rush screen. And then we do allow editing plays, deleting plays, and inserting before or after. And when you insert a play or edit a play, it'll recalculate that drive. So if you edit a play and you originally had somebody rushing for 20 yards, and then you edit it and it's 10, it'll recalculate those 10 yards and it'll recalculate the other plays that are going to be affected. So, for example, it'll give those 10 yards to the next play, for example. And I believe that is it for our slideshow. So now I'm going to pop out of here and show off our actual platform. And we're
Just
just
a
going
heads up, we're getting some good questions in here. I want to let Zach get through the presentation, and then I've got a bunch of these marked that we'll go ahead and start answering, guys. Go ahead, Zach.
So, as I said, this is the screen. You know, if we wanted to make it 12-minute periods, we could. If we wanted to make it, we're only playing two halves. You know, I know sometimes, especially if you're setting like a JV game, you may change some of the rules around a little bit just to get through it a little quicker. But we're going to assume you're starting a varsity game here and everything's as intended. So we're just going to hit save. And it's going to verify these changes. And there we go. So now I'm going to pull up a roster here for stretch beta. And I want to show a specific player. Notice we're supporting alphanumeric characters here. We have 2F. I think that's 2I, 2B. But if we come down here, notice 88O comes over. So we just wanted to show here we are supporting the 3-character limits. And if you need to edit a number, you can come in here, edit a name, a number, and then these 2 positions will be used. I'll show those in just a second where those are going to be used. That allows us to filter out who we're going to show at the top of the list to make it a little quicker to find players. So we're just going to assume our roster is set up correctly. So we're going to come in here, we're going to set up the game, and we're going to say this team won the toss, and stretch beta is receiving the kickoff. Our field position looks correct. And this does give us one last chance if we want to check our event settings one last time and just make sure everything is correct. So then we'll start our game up, and we're good to go. So we start off by kicking, and we'll kick the ball off. Notice this works the same as you're used to. And then I'm just going to do this one with a hotkey just to show the hotkeys still work. And we'll start the drive. And we had a kickoff for a touchback. So we save the play. And we'll start our new drive here at 15 minutes. And now let's start with a pass. So we have a pass play. And notice this order by positions. And what that allows us to do is kind of filter out and show at the top the players who are most likely to be involved in that play. So earlier you saw on the roster, we have wide receiver listed as a primary position. So we're going to show wide receivers first for receptions, for example. So for a pass, we're going to show the quarterbacks first. So we'll say number 11 is our quarterback, and he's going to throw it. And notice it shows our wide receivers and tight ends first. And we can always change this if we just want to show by jersey number. So that's going to be a toggleable, however you find it works best for you. I personally enjoy it. And then notice here, the 3-digit character does come over in this screen as well. So we can select 88 wide receiver, and we'll end the play. And we'll say it went to the home 38. And then we'll just put in a clock and hit save. Gives us a last chance here to verify the play. Looks good to me, so we'll hit save. Now, another thing with the new system is we support extended plays. So we're going to start with a rush, and we'll rush with number 4 here. And we're going to say he fumbled. And then we do have to put in the yard line where we fumbled, so I'll just do it with the keyboard here just to show. We'll say he got to the 44. And we'll give 09 the credit. And now that fumble, let's say it was recovered by the other team. So we'll give it to this player, the 43. And now he can keep going. And now we'll give a tackle credit here. We'll just say it was one player. And we'll say he fumbled as well. So you can keep chaining as many different laterals, fumbles as you would like. So there's no limit to the number of continues and laterals you can have on a play. So if we wanted to, we could keep going and add a continue, but we'll just go ahead and end this wild play. So here we have a rush for 6 yards. It was fumbled, recovered, fumbled again. So we did add a little more support for those kind of wild, crazy plays you tend to see. But your normal plays do work. I mean, the ones you're going to see more of, we'll just add a quick little rush here. We'll say there was a tackle, and we'll give it to 09 and 98 on the tackles. And we'll go backwards. We'll say it ended 14 even. And we continue that play. All right, now let's say we have a false start. So that's going to work as the same way you're used to. And you can just search for false start, or you can use the key behind here. And we'll put it on stretch beta. The penalty was accepted. And we'll say it was on our wide receiver. So if we go here, and so we select where it was enforced from, and then we select where it was enforced to. So we'll do 27, and it was a normal penalty. So it was not an automatic first down. There's no loss of down on the play. So it's just a normal repeat the down penalty. And we select that. So it was a negative 5-yard penalty. And we're now at 2nd and 18. But let's say we need to go in here and change. Okay, it was not on that guy. So we can go in here and edit the play. So let's say we can come in here, and let's say it was actually on number 2. So notice now it recalculates everything based off of that player. Let's see. If we need to punt, punts work the same way as you're used to as well. We have a punt to the visitor. We'll say boomed it to the visitor 12. We could add a muff, fair catch. And again, these plays continue to support laterals, fumbles, whatever you would need. So we'll say he fair caught it. And we're good to go. We'll change the clock for the fun of it. And we now change sides of the field and we'll start a new drive. Right. And the last thing I'll show is the report. So if we come down here, we do have the report summary. So we'll show this drive here. We need to check on our offense. We do calculate the yards. So you will still have all of your in-game reports that you're used to. If you need to print them off for some reason, you can do that as well. That's our quick little run through of Stats 2.0. So I guess we'll now turn it over to questions, Brad.
Absolutely. Okay. So a lot of questions that we're going to start running through. So for the 3-character roster numbers, are you working with the NCAA to accept a 3-character number on their NCAA roster entry form? Easy answer is no. We're not working with that. NCAA rule is still 2 characters, so I don't know that they would change that. It's definitely something we can bring up to them, but this is really more for live entry to make it easier on the person entering. So, um, next one is, and Zach, will there be a character increase for long names as well? I believe the current character limit is like 15, but always have 10 to 15 names that are longer than 15 characters. That comes when the pack file goes away, right?
Correct. That is a limitation of the pack file. It only has that 15 to 20 limit of what we can put in that spot. So when pack files
So
go away, character limits will also increase.
we'll give you guys more information on the specific timing of that here in a little bit. We're not 100% sure on when that will actually take place, but But typically for something that large, we're not going to do that in the middle of the season, but we'll keep you updated on that. But yes, that is planned for this. Will the Try PrestoStats site allow you to try this prior to the season?
So I can answer that. Hello, Josh Fowler, Vice President of Product and Development. I had to think about that one. There is actually already a way to try it. In the Help Center, we do have a login for all 2.0 stat products, which includes football, flag football, and tennis. So there is in the Help Center a way to log in and try all three of those sports if you wanted to. We can make sure to kind of follow up there and maybe within the email that sends out after, put that link for the Help Center article in there.
Perfect. I'm gonna see if I can push that out to everybody in this as well. So let's see. The next question. For an opponent roster who does not have its roster in Presto, can you import a roster?
Yes, you will be able to import a roster the same way you've done today. Depends on that file. That they should be able to provide you a file, and you would just be able to import it directly into Presto.
We should be able to import a Stat Crew roster, or we also have a spreadsheet that you can use as a template to import to add all your data to and import it. Next one, their connection cut out, but did you say, and this has been a growing question, that participants have to be marked before they appear as an option in a play?
Oh wait, did you already? I was trying to read where that answer or question was. Essentially, yes. You would go to the page and mark as a participant for them to come up in the options. Now, it does carry everything over from the CMS. There's no limitations on rosters. As far as that, there was a 100 limitation. Same thing going over. There's a 100 limitation. So when it carries over from CMS, you would just select your participants there, and that's what shows up in the list. Now, if you have to, for some reason, bring someone in after you've marked that, now you can go back into the team settings and mark a participant even after the game has already started to have them show back up in the list.
Cool. So really, it's going to change your workflow a little bit in terms of adding participants. You would just want to subtract participants after the game, essentially, if that's the case. Okay. Next question. After a play is entered and the same team holds on to the ball, can you skip not entering the time? This has been a question a few times because there's more options to enter the time of each play.
No, you do have to enter the time. Main reason being is that you can make it the existing time if you need to, but we've had requests to show the time more often within the XML, especially when it comes to sending the broadcast and scoreboards, different things, sending out through the API to different vendors that you may have. So that's been a request, so we've added that in. Now, you can just hit save and go, the previous time if it's still part of the same drive or something like that. But we have been asked to add that in, so that's something we added in.
Okay. Can you hotkey player numbers, and how would that work with 3-digit players?
You would just hit that. Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Yes, I was gonna say, yeah, the hotkeys will still work with 3 character numbers. I'll put a turnover in and show you real quick. We'll say we have a pass. We'll have it intercepted, so we quickly change possessions. Yep. So if we put in this interception, and we'll just say the end of the play is going to also be at the home 48. start a new drive, and then we'll have a pass play here. It'll be complete, and I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but it will work the same way with just hotkeys. I didn't use my mouse at all. So you would just type in the 3 characters instead of the 2.
Okay. For yardage, is the hotkey still H and V, or do you have to click anything?
Yes, same thing there. H and V still work. That's what I've been using a lot here. Yeah, so those hotkeys will still work.
Okay, we've entered the time question. Um, so there's a question about reports and if if we're going to have a version of a report that will fit on a single page for printing. Tim, Tim, do you want to go ahead and just unmute and tell us a little bit more about your question, describe it a little bit better?
When you print a report, first of all, it's usually like very small, and so if you're trying to get it to read, you have to jump it up to like 140% just to see it, and then it formats all over the page. So sometimes like your offensive stuff is there, and you get 2 guys that are on defensive, so you can actually read it. Because if I print the reports as they are, everybody in the booth goes, I can't even read these; they're so small. So is it automated that like it will fill the page and it will like format to a page properly? It doesn't have to fit on one page, just that it like fills the page properly. That's the main part of that question, I guess.
Is there a specific report that it may be a good idea for a follow-up? Because if there's a specific report, I think most of the ones that we've seen we print out, they're legible. So I think we need to figure out which report exactly you're talking about within the system just to see which one it is, and then we can go from there on how to fix that one.
It's the main report actually for all of PrestoStats, but it's the main report for football, just the regular, like, okay, I need to quickly print at the end of the quarter to press the broadcasters and do that. And it's the first report. I can't remember. I'm not looking at the inside of it, but what the actual report is. But you click on it and print, and okay, and you're passing it out in the booth. And that one, if I forget, great. Then the next time I print, I forget, and it's at 150%, and volleyball's off the page. You're like, wait, what? So just getting the formats actually across the board, all platforms, but particularly football.
Is that the coach's view?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask, is if it was the coach's view. We did recently reformat that, so it may be a little bit different. We did that over the summer. So I don't know if maybe we can try maybe printing it again. I'll print it on my end just to see what it looks like too. But yeah, we did recently redo that report over the summer on some of the main sites.
Hey guys, it's basically all in-game reports. Like you would go to the setup page and then go to reports. That report would start out small, especially in soccer and in football, and you would have to reformat.
Oh, is that within the stats platform itself?
Yes.
Okay. We are currently working on those because we're making a new pre-game report that shows basically season stats for the sports. We're starting with baseball there, but we are working on some of those reports too. We can definitely look at that, yeah, and see. I think the hard part is fitting it all on one page. Now, if we had it 2 pages, it might be differently, but yeah, I can look at that to see how it's formatted.
Josh, I'm honestly not worried about, like, especially football fitting on one page. I'm just worried about that it is readable just with me hitting print, not, oh wait, change it to 125 or change it to 130, so it actually kind of fills the page and you can read. I don't like. It'd be ideal if the defensive stuff was on a second page, just so if you wanted to, you could only print one page. But what happens is it just comes as one long, whatever is in that report, it's all one long thing. So you print it in the first quarter when 3 guys have touched the ball, receptions, and 2 guys have run the ball, and it all kind of, okay, it's there. But as soon as you blow it up, like half the defense shows up and it's on the second page, and then Okay, you get to the end of the game and it's like 40 people have touched the ball, and that's probably too many, and then it's all over. Like you're trying to fit it all in, and you're trying to do that and stay up with what you're doing. So just the formatting of it. Again, I'm not worried about it being one page, just that it's a standard thing across the board.
Usually layout width is the issue. And length, like Tim said, it's not the length. Length's never an issue. It's always the width.
Okay. No, I'd definitely have the team look at that. So in-game reports and stat legacy.
I have a question.
Yeah, Derek.
When you're okay, so he said that we use the iPad. So let's say we're using the iPad for the in game, and then we wanted to print it off. Are we allowed to jump from the iPad over to like a computer and print those, even though we're logged in on the iPad, keeping the stats?
Unfortunately, currently, no. We're working on that to where you can go between devices like that, between iPad. The iPad specifically, it comes down to a security issue when it downloads that file. And it's now if you have like an Android tablet, it works, but with Apple specifically, it has issues. That's something we're trying to work around. In fact, I've just built, if you go to the App Store, you'll see there's a PrestoStats app now. That was something to work around this security issue. That hasn't 100% been tested about in the middle of the game, but that was something to fix that for Apple. But yeah, there is a app now if you want to try to download it and then use that test user in the help center if you want to try the iPad, or even the Google Play Store has the app now too. But that's something that we're currently working on with between the iPad and the computer. It's something I'm trying to figure out because it is a security thing on the Apple to where it's not downloading the file properly.
Cool. Okay. Next question. Will the roster limit be adjusted? I'm sorry. Yeah. Will the roster limit be adjusted?
How do we want to adjust it? I think is the question. I think the limit right now is 100.
Yeah. I don't have a name on this, but if someone would like to weigh in on if this was your question, if you want to give us some more information, we can respond to that below. Okay. Next question. I noticed that your sample rosters have leading zeros for single digits, 01, 02, etc. Is this recommended for any reason, or does it not make a difference?
I think that's just to show we couldn't support it before very efficiently, but we can now. So yeah, it's whatever you prefer, I guess.
Yeah. So the next question is talking about participants ahead of time because they don't receive two deeps at our level. And I think we already kind of went into the participation. My recommend would never be to only load in two deeps anyway, because as most of you guys know, two deeps absolutely are incorrect on game day. So I would never rely on your two deep for anything. If you want to use that as a starting point for your for starters on a software that you're using, obviously we don't have starters in our system, but yeah, I would not be doing that anyway. Next question is there a way to run the clock like basketball instead of entering the time, and like start using space bar, something like to start and stop the clock? I don't believe that is supported here, Josh, is it?
That is not supported here. No, that's not supported here. Something we can maybe look at. Yeah, that is not supported here.
It's a great thought.
All right. Few different questions about the clock, and that's something we can take a look at some point. Um, if they are marked as a participant to appear to be able to credit them for the stats, does that automatically give them a game played even though they don't actually play?
In our system, if it's marked as participant, it's going to mark it as they play. Yeah, because that's how it works off the XML. No matter where you send it to any third party, if they're in that participant list in the top of the XML, it's going to mark them as they played the game.
After the game is over, though, can you go back in, and if they did not play, remove them as a
Yes,
participant?
Yes.
you
Okay.
Um, Given that we have to enter time after every play, is there any compatibility with products like Sportscast to automatically pull in time from the scoreboard?
So we're starting that conversation with a couple companies. So we now have the integration as far as pushing it out to things like Daktronics. We're working with Scorebird for some of the other ones because now they're the official software for some of the other score boards out there. Getting the time back's a little different because not all scoreboards report it back in any fashion or way. Only certain models do that. So that's something, for example, we're going to start with Scorebird talking to about bringing the clock back. But that's tough too because it may be a delay in entering the play. There's a lot of variables in there, but that's something we are exploring and talking to some of the companies about.
It is important to note that, again, you will have access to both Legacy and 2.0 for every single game. So you won't have to, um, if the way things work currently is not something that you're completely in love with, you do not have to use that this year. So we want to make sure we gave you options. Changing stat platforms is always nerve-wracking for sure. Next question is, I'm not seeing game control as an option. How do ending and changing quarters work? Is there an advancement in how overtime works? Zach, do you want to walk me through that?
Yeah. Make sure. Okay. Make sure I wasn't muted. Yeah. So game controls is just going to be up here, and that's how you would do your time and period. We need to call a timeout. It would work that way, and period advancement. If you end up putting 0, 0 in for the clock, it'll go ahead and auto update that period for you. And can you repeat the question on overtime, Brad?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, how do ending and changing quarters work? Is there a way to advance and how overtime works? Is just showing how that works.
Yeah. So we'll have a run here. And we'll end the play. And we'll go ahead and say this was the longest play, I think, in football history. So now we can come in here. Wait, our game controls. And see,
So
we can go and
control is the widget up there by the clock, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, there you go.
And then you can just click here to go and start the new quarter. So see here it goes from first to second. And you got to go through each period before you can get to the next one. And then once you get through all four, then you would so this is another one here. So you see we have a new period started. We can swap the teams on our field so that it still looks correct to us from the box. So if I wanted to swap it, we can do that. And notice Stretch and Presto Beta have swap sides.
Okay.
And then once you finish all 4 quarters, you would just get the pop-up to put in your final stats, essentially.
Cool. All right. Next question is, how will the new clock feature alter the play-by-play report, since it used to just show drive time? Now do you have to scroll to enter, or can you type the time in?
You could do either. You can put your mouse over to time and scroll, or you can enter the time in. It depends on if you're using your mouse or your finger, or if you're typing in. If you're on the iPad, you can click it and it'll show an option of times for you to hit with your finger.
Perfect. All right. Next question. In the last version of Presto, a quarterback dropping back to throw was auto-selected after the first attempt because it was assumed that was the starter. Will this still be automated in 2.0, or will we need to select the quarterback for each pass play?
That's actually a good question that I do not have the answer for right off the bat, but we can follow up with that. Yeah, because I think I know the answer, but I don't want to answer that without verifying first.
Okay. Cool. We will, Devin, we will get back to you on that. We'll get that answered, and I'll try to include that in our email post webinar. So sort of an unrelated question, but is there an easy way to populate NCAA team codes within the XMLs?
Oh, I'm pretty sure we already do that. The XML, as long as you're playing with a team, the NCAA ones, if you're an NCAA team on the NCAA season, it will automatically fill with the NCAA team code. Now,
Brandon,
if
you had asked this one. I'm guessing you're wondering if your school is not an NCAA school and was assigned an NCAA team code at one point. Is that what you're asking? If you could unmute?
Yeah, so our conference site for stat archives has required the NCAA team codes. So I was wondering if there's a way, because last year we had to go through and change it manually, if there's a way to automate this as an NAI school.
Yeah, it's going to put in the old. So this is something unfortunately can't be changed in the system. It carried over from SID Help, these RPI codes, these team codes, to where it shows NAIA on it. So that's what has to show in the XML, unfortunately. We could possibly make another node within the XML that could put the NCAA team code, but I'm not sure if whatever software you're using is going to be able to read that. But since that's the code in our system that carried over from years and years ago, that's not an easy thing to change in our system to a new team code. So unfortunately, the only answer I have for you right now is that you would manually have to go in and change those.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Next question. When will this officially release? Where can we test this before the season using using PrestoStats? We already kind of talked a little bit about that. It's not in PrestoStats. There's another system, but the official release, Josh, Zach.
Yeah, so technically this is already released, and it's only active on a few seasons right now. Going into next season, it will be active for those seasons. So you're welcome to try it out with our test user in the system. As we mentioned, Brad will send out the article on how to log in and try it out. You're welcome to go in, make a new event on the test season, play with it, see how you like it. And if there's any questions, just follow up with us.
if we are already a PrestoStats client, do we automatically get the option to use 2.0, or is this an option we need to purchase on top of our current package? This is already included. This is not an additional piece of software. You get this automatically. So if you're a Presto football user, you get both access to Legacy and 2.0. Next question. Have you been able to bypass the various browsers to send a file direct to the printer? So instead of exporting a report that goes into a browser window, I'm guessing is the question, can you just have it go direct to a printer? I'm assuming that's the question.
That's unfortunately the browser doesn't allow that. You gotta when you click it and it puts it into that new tab, and then you can just hit the print button there and it sends it to the printer. But yeah, there's some. The problem is a lot of these schools have a lot of security settings when it comes to just randomly printing stuff, and it has to print what's on the page. A lot of these browsers, especially if a school is using Edge across the board, kind of lock that down to where you can't just press a button to send directly to the printer. It has to be on a visible page to be able to set it to the printer. So that's what we do is when you click the report, it puts it in another window, or it may put it in this window as another layer, and then you're able to print it. But due to so many schools having very tight security settings within their network, we have to do it this way.
Okay. Next question. Has the software been updated to account for more rare plays? 2 years in a row, I've had a block punt and an end zone recovered for a defensive touchdown. There wasn't a great way to input this in the past. Josh, I know you guys have been working on a lot of those.
So we've taken a lot of new scenarios into account. This one specifically, I'm not 100% sure, and this is another one of those we'll have to follow up with. But we've been working very heavily with a couple organizations, testing back and forth, and we've added in some very rare and unique situations and scenarios into the system. There's some that we've seen that I don't think I've personally ever seen, but they have. So this specific example, I'll have to check with the team to see, but I can say that we've gone through and we've added a lot of new scenarios and rare occurrences that could happen.
And Josh, when we released 2.0, when this kind of started becoming a thing, this was one of the things you guys were thinking about, right? In terms of the flexibility to be able to add different types of events easily rather than having to really dive into to what's been hard coded.
Yeah, the core infrastructure of 2.0 is completely different from Legacy. We had so many limitations with Legacy, but now it's literally it just pulls how you route a play from a JSON file. So all we would have to go in and edit that core file to be able to allow different scenarios. So like it doesn't when you push one button, it depends on what buttons show. Well, if you have a scenario where you'll have to have one or the other buttons show, we just go in and say, okay, now allow this type of play. It's a lot different now. This gives us some more freedom to do things, especially when it comes down to like rule changes and different rule sets. Something that Zach didn't go through here. In fact, if you can you click the eye real quick? The over on the left side. Yeah, the eye, the information up, right there.
Sorry.
Okay, event settings. It may not let us event settings tab. It may not let us show this because the game's already started, but I'm going to try it. Hit the event settings instead of details. Thank you. Yeah, scroll down. Okay, since it's already started, it doesn't. But we have some different rule sets now. For example, we have, American football, like NCAA rules, and then we have Canadian football. So before games start, there's a drop down at the very bottom to say, hey, what rule set do you want? Well, we're about to add in a rule set probably for indoor football, different things. So if you have different settings depending on what type of scenario you have, we're going to have those different rule sets in there. So if with your organization you allow this, whereas another doesn't, we'll be able to change the rule set depending on who you are. We have a lot more freedom with 2.0 now.
Okay. Next question. Can you show us what a printed report looks like? When you try to do that in the test environment, seeing a version that is 18 pages long and includes every single play-by-play rather than just scoring plays.
Yeah, can you click the report over there?
You?
Yeah. So we have different ones. We have the box score where it shows the drive summaries. We have the individual stats, and then we have the participants. Within here, we're going to have basically your participants is going to be your pregame report. If you can click the participants tab. We're going to add in season stats in here so you have that. And then if you click individual stats, this will be your individual stats going through the game. So, it'll have every category and then the stats for those players as you play. So yeah, I mean, it just depends on what report you're going to pull on how long it is. Like if you do the box score and you're in the fourth quarter, it's probably going to be, 6 pages because it has every play on there and exactly what happened. Whereas if you go to the individual stats, it won't be that long because it's consolidated based on, the stats.
Okay. Zach, can you show editing a play after it's been saved? Can you walk through that?
I can. So if we go back, let's see. Do this one. Just come in here and you'll click edit. And then we can change who we want to show the play or, where on the field. So this one went to, we'll say it ended up going to the 20 or the 34 instead. So simple, works the same way as adding a play. You just come in here and then you would select the tab you need to change and then just hit save.
Okay. Next question. In the old system, if a player was involved in a play, it automatically included them as a participant in the contest. So now you're saying you have to identify potential participants for each contest, correct? Yes. So at this point, you need to click on everyone who's going to participate in the game, so they show up as an option for you. All right. Next question. Is there a way to add starters into the system? I don't believe starters are an option within this. It's just participants, correct, Zach, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, so it doesn't for football, it doesn't specifically say who your starters is versus your participants.
Why was that changed? Because in Legacy that is an option and that's there. Why was that changed for 2.0?
Mainly for your pregame reports, it would only print your starters versus your participant, like everybody. That too, and given some of the feedback, it's kind of, it was almost unneeded. Now that could change if y'all say, hey, we need to mark our starters for whatever reason it was. That was something that in our test groups and everything, we removed that option of starters because they said, well, we don't really need to mark who the starter is. We just need to mark who the participant is.
Actually,
It was an extra
I have a
step.
question on that because there's some
Yeah.
awards. There's some awards that we have to say whether they played in so many games or they started in so many contests in order to be able to nominate them for certain awards. So I would recommend, if possible, to try to add that feature back.
Okay.
When nominating for Academic All-American through CSC, you have to put in games started, and it's part of the criteria. They have to play in 90%, or they have to start at 60%, or whatever the criteria is. That has to be there. So without us having to take our shoes off and count our toes and everything else to figure it out, it'd be great if it was just there.
As you can see, Josh is furiously typing this to make sure that he's got this in there. So
yeah. Don't mind I'm making notes and yeah.
Yeah, and as I've said before, we're rolling out a software that, we're really happy with, but obviously there's going to be things that we're going to need to continuously do. So I would never consider any of these finished. We're gonna continuously add things. So more information on that one to come, but we'll get into that for sure. Next question is, how does the app handle multiple penalties?
I can take this one. Are we referencing like offsetting penalties or just multiple in the same play or?
Let's go ahead and show both.
Okay. So yeah, you just come in here, select our penalties. Say we have a face mask. And notice here you can just come in here and select offsetting. So if we had multiple penalties, say we got 9 guys who get an unsportsmanlike, we can just select offsetting. And then select another one. We need to add more penalties here. We'll say it's another face mask. Offsetting. And then you'll be able to choose if the stats count for the play. And we'll just say no. Change our clock. So that would be offsetting penalties. And then if you had multiple in the same play, so let's say we have a rush. That we'll say ends the play at here. And then we'll be able to add penalties at the end. So let's say there's a holding. We'll say it was accepted. So then we'll say it moves us back to the 29. And then we'll be able to select, is it what type it is. So this one's a normal. No stats. And then we can just add another penalty here if we needed to. We could do, say there was a offsides on this play as well. So yeah, you can put multiple in, and then this one will be declined. So I mean, we can add another one if we would like. Let's say there's another hold that was also declined. So yeah, so you can change as many penalties as you would like in a play.
Cool. Okay, we are at noon. We're gonna need to stop, but I do want to get to two more questions real quick. There's not a hotkey for that widget, that game control widget, correct? You just have to go click it.
I'm not positive on that one. Josh, do you know the answer to that one?
We did make a hotkey for it. Right offhand, I don't remember what it is, but we can find out. I think it is in our new cheat sheets in our help center. But I'll verify that. If those new cheat sheets aren't there yet, I know they will be soon.
Okay. And then the last one, growing questions on participations. So with participation, so essentially the question is, do you need, so you need to go ahead and enter everybody as a participant, and then manually uncheck people who didn't go in, correct? So it's just changing the workflow.
Yeah, basically your best way to do it is if they have a jersey number and they're on the sidelines, mark them as a participant because they could be entered in the game. And then afterwards, go back and remove anybody that didn't play.
So at the end of the day, since you guys won't know who's on the sideline and who's not, the best that the one thing that we're recommending is entering everyone as a participant and then going back and taking everybody out who did not play, who did not record a stat would be the easiest way to do that. Um, I've got a list of all of these questions. I'm going to try to respond to all of them in my follow-up email to everybody. But I want to thank you guys. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everyone, for the great questions and great thoughts. We appreciate these. Just because it's not in there today doesn't mean it won't be in there in the future. And hearing your feedback is really helpful for us to improve the product. So don't think that these are all no one, it's never going to happen. So we appreciate everybody, and we will see you guys here soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks all.